Well, hello. I think we're live on Moreland Library's Facebook page. Well, it's good to be here. I hope that everything's working as it should. This is one of those things where, the technology, as always, does something funny for us. But I'm hoping that it's all looking good to me. I hope you can see me as well. I hope it's all working for you. And as we're about to get going with our author talk today, I think you're going to really enjoy this because it's going to be me telling you about how to tackle uncertainty in your daily life. So we're going to start in just a minute. All right. Perfect. So I think everything is ready to go. Hopefully you can hear me. Give me a shout out in the comments below if there's any issues at all. But hopefully you can see me. Hopefully you can hear me, and hopefully we'll get going. Well, right about now. Well, welcome to Moreland Library's Facebook page, and welcome to this author talk. My name is Joe Bakhmoutski, and I'm the author of Simplify Cancer: Man's Guide to Navigating the Everyday Reality of Cancer. And today I'm going to tell you about 3 simple ways to tackle uncertainty in your daily life. So these are things that I've learned from my experience of really dealing with cancer. And I hope that you will agree that we've got a fair bit of uncertainty in our lives right now. But isn't it crazy? I mean, the way this year has turned out? I mean, who would have thought we'd be living in a pandemic, we'd be having restrictions? And by the way, congratulations on the easing of restrictions. I mean, isn't it amazing that, just like today, we from today on, we're going to be allowed to do things that, we've been used to all this time, like go and go do shopping, go see our friends and family. And listen, if you're excited by this, then just let me know in the comments, below this video. Just what are you going to be doing? What is the first thing you're going to do, as restrictions are lifting? Maybe you're going to go booking a haircut. Maybe, I know I'm going to do a haircut for my son. Uh, Maybe you're going to catch up with your kids, with your parents, with your friends. What are you going to do? I'd love to know. Let us know. And also, I just want to congratulate you for being here today, for taking the time to do this. I mean, listen, you could be anywhere within 25 kilometers away from your house, and yet you are here. You're in this author talk, and I know you've been through a lot this year. So I really wanna champion you for really being here because it's such an incredible time. I mean, you've just by default of living in this time. I know that you've been through a lot. You've been through lockdown. You've hopefully you've been okay in terms of health, but that's so important. And I want to say a huge thank you to Moreland Libraries for having me and having me to do this author talk. I mean, thank you, Barbara, for making it all happen. I'm just really excited to be here. I gotta say, I love libraries. My first experience with libraries just was that really stands out for me in a big, powerful way was when I was about 8 years old. And I remember walking into my local library, and usually, like, I would talk to a librarian and think about kind of different books that I want to read and just kind of explore. But this time, just as a kid, I think I would have been about 8 years old. It's like I was possessed. It's kind of like I knew where I was going. I just kind of zigzagged my way through the library and I went to the back shelf. And I found a copy of Lord of the Rings. I mean, this was in Russian, right? By the way, this was a big deal, right? Because back in the Soviet Union, which is where I grew up, there was only 20,000 copies of Lord of the Rings translated into Russian, and that is a pretty big deal, uh, because there's probably what in the country, what, 50 million people? That's a lot. That's not a lot of copies. And in fact, there was only the first book of Lord of the Rings, right? Because the second and the third book I only found out when I moved to Australia, because they still haven't been translated into English. And I remember just getting this book, and I haven't even opened the book. I just knew it felt right somehow. And I took this book to the counter. And I hope you, the librarians here on the call, maybe you, Barbara, hope you guys remember those days when we didn't have those fancy computer things to scan the books, and you had to like write down the the book details, and you had to stamp this thing. So those were the days. And so I remember just getting this book and going home, and this book just really just changed my world. This is when I really like fell in love with reading. This is where I learned about just the true value of friendship. That's why I learned about just resilience and what it means to kind of stand up in a challenging time, even when you kind of don't feel up to it. That's Yes, all of those values. And I think this is what's so special about libraries. It's not only do they expose us to like incredible books, but it also like bring us together, right? Because you're here, we're all here, and we are connected, even in the restrictions, right? We have the technology to still come together in one. So thank you for having me, and thank you just for bringing me in. And listen, I know there's been you have your own connection with the library. So if you have your own story that you want to share, or just make a note, just put that on the chat below. And Nejat, I hope I got your name right. Thanks for commenting. I look, I'm sure Mullen Library is really looking forward to returning the books that you had past 3 months. You know what? You know what, Nejat? I hope you got your name right. I got my books out, and guess what? They've been in my house for the past 8 months. So I feel even worse than you, man. So that's how it is. But really, again, I want to thank you guys for being here. And for me, the way that I've ended up on this incredible journey of life, back to, how I ended up with this book, is really, I ended up in a place where, a few years ago, I was just really in the shower one night. It was just a regular night. I was home on my own for some reason, and I was just in the shower getting myself clean until my hand reached down and I felt this lump. I felt this hard lump on my testicle, and I knew that something felt so wrong for me. And so immediately, it all came through to me. Why for weeks I felt like my underwear just shrunk several sizes. And for the guys who, were watching this, I mean, that's not a comfortable feeling. So it, it's just been something that's really, it just brought the reality of what was happening to me. So the next day, I raced to the doctors. And thankfully, I think it happened quite quickly from there. I got sent for an ultrasound. And next thing I know, I'm sitting in a urologist office. And I will never forget how I sit opposite the urologist. And he kind of looks at me and says, look, he did this whole thorough examination. He said, look, Joe, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but this is definitely cancer. And at that point, just everything kind of stopped for me. I was just in this really weird place. I felt like I was, like, I don't know, like I was dropped into a water tank. Like I could kind of see things, but it was all unclear, you know? And I could hear things, but it was all kind of muffled and nothing made sense. And he was saying something about the operation and how I'm gonna do chemotherapy and my chances and all that sort of stuff. But I didn't really connect with me. I was just like in a daze. And so I ended up just kind of walking out, and they gave me a whole bunch of paperwork for the hospital and to get more tests. And guys, I remember I walked out, and walked to the nearest cafe, and I ordered a drink or something. And I thought, what am I gonna do now? You know, I, I, why me? Like, what have I done to deserve this? Like, I've been a good person. This isn't supposed to happen to someone like me. Am I going to be able to make it through? Am I going to be able to, after all this treatment, am I going to be able to, I don't know, play with my son? Am I going to be, am I going to be able to have sex with my wife? Am I going to be able to just go to work? It was so overwhelming. And and it's kind of like it gets in a way, it reminds me of the crazy times that we live in today. Because today we also live in a place where, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't really know how things are going to turn out. We're lucky that I think we still live in an incredibly lucky country. I, for one, am so grateful to be here in Australia and, to be in a place where, which is unlike the rest of the world. We've got a pretty good handle on it, despite last couple of months here in Victoria. But still, like, if you look at the rest of the world, it's a mess. And, we're so lucky to be here. I gotta, thank the lucky stars every single day. So, but yeah, like I said, the uncertainty is still there, and it's probably going to still be there for us in some way, shape, or form for next couple of months or maybe even a year, right? And it's hard because with uncertainty, I mean, I don't know what gets you about uncertainty, but I guess for me is I know that you can't make plans. You're gonna feel that you're kind of stuck. You're not really, you're not really moving on, and that feeling of being stuck, you feel like. I mean, I don't know about you, but like I sometimes feel like a caged animal when I'm out at home because I feel like I want to be out doing things, and and so you kind of feel like nothing's moving, and you feel like you're kind of in one place, and you're not going somewhere. And that's why you kind of, for example, often feel disappointed and because nothing happens, right? And you wonder, like, what's next for me? Like, what's gonna happen? And like, am I gonna cage this whole COVID thing? Like, or am I gonna have enough money to live? Because this is a real struggle again for so many of us, like going through this time, and it's our livelihoods under threat. So I know it's a tough time for many of us. So, but like I said, I guess back to my journey, I still feel that I've been really lucky and also grateful for my incredible medical team to really have really taken me through this journey through an operation and chemotherapy and my urologist, my oncologist, the incredible oncology nurses I've had. I will always be grateful for them for the incredible work they have done for me and just making me feel like a human being as well. Because that's a big deal, right? You don't, when you're treated as a human and people genuinely care for you. I think this is one of the things that we really do for each other here as Australians. And I think that's just such a crucial thing. And, as crazy as the experience of cancer has been for me, what I've really learned about dealing with uncertainty and dealing with kind of that struggle of not knowing what comes next, I kind of learned that after cancer. Because in a weird way, what I didn't realize that even after I got my all clear, which was a was a big relief, but really what I did not realize was that I would be spending, the next, well, many years, I'm going for checkups every 3 months. So what would happen is, I would go into a blood test and CT scans and a whole bunch of tests in the hospital, and I would come to my specialist, and they would look at all the tests and do this whole physical exam, and they would kind of determine, whether the cancers come back or not. And so every time I was kind of leading up to it, I would really get worked up and tense, because again, you don't know what's coming your way, and I remember this one time when I just felt so on edge, like I was just worried out of my mind, and I couldn't take it anymore. I just had to get out of the house, and I walked out, and we didn't live near these train tracks, and I was just walking on this path along the train tracks, and it was really late, it was pitch dark, And I'm just walking along the train tracks, and I can barely see in front of me. Just I could only make out like maybe a few steps ahead, right? So I'm walking along the train tracks, and and I'm thinking like, what can I do? Like, what can I do about this whole crazy thing about cancer coming back? Well, there's like I can't do anything. I mean, it's just like it's biology, it's random chance. It's not up to me. And then I thought, well, what about the rest of my life? Have I been living the life that I want? The life where, my best life, well, the life I'm like giving fully and kind of contributing in a big way, in a way that is meaningful for me personally. Because I realized that if I can be living, with no regrets, if I can just give everything, you know, just be my best with my family, with people I care about, with my friends, with what I'm doing, out in the world, then I can manage uncertainty. I can deal with it because it's only one part of my life. I can learn how to work around it because there is me and there is this one part that I can handle. And I thought, well, am I really living my best life? Am I living the life that is really best for me? And honestly, I realized that I wasn't. I realized that I was doing a lot of things wrong or not at my best. And I realized, like, what are some of the things that I could be doing with my life that could really, make sure that I'm living on the level that I expect of myself, where I could have no regrets. And I really kind of think of it as, I call it my three P's. I call it three P's because it stands for, for my passions. It stands for your passions, and also your projects and your people. And I think of it in passions is like, what are some of the things that, you love doing? Things that maybe you haven't even found the time for, but they kind of get you excited. Maybe you had the chance to do it during this lockdown and do something, do like a hobby or do something that maybe you haven't had the chance to do before. But I think that's a huge deal. Like finding a passion, something that gets you excited, something you can kind of sink your teeth into and just kind of, yeah, go go for it. And then if there's something like that in your life that maybe you haven't done enough of, that could really make a difference. And then there is people, right? And for me, it was working out, well, who's kind of looking up to me the most right now? Who's going to need my help and support the most? And really have to show up in a big, powerful way. And for me, that was my son. He's he's now 6 years old. It took me a second to remember. And I knew I needed to show up for him in a big way. And for me, that passion was, just kind of my guitar. I haven't really played for ages and kind of got that out and was writing a few songs again. And I felt great about that. And then the third P, which is projects. And by projects, I really mean these kind of things that you can plan from kind of start to finish, that you can get it done. I mean, this could be a home renovation that you do. This could be planning a holiday. I know that's the holiday part is a little bit tricky now, right? It's, the borders are closed, but who knows? That will open up again, right? So hopefully we can look forward to traveling within Australia or that air bubble with New Zealand. Remember that? Well, actually, if you have, um, thanks, Nija. Thank you for those kind words. And listen, if you've got any plans, let me know. Let me know in the chat below. I'd love to know what you can do. What you gonna, what do you look can you look forward to? What is something that you can plan from start to finish? I know for me, um, this was my book. Back then, I knew that I wanted to do a book. And in fact, I wrote this book for probably a good year. And I read it and I realized there was too much of me in there. So I kind of changed it around and stripped it and turned it into a self-help book. And I shared the best of what I learned about dealing with uncertainty and living with difficult times and some of the things that you're talking about right now, and you realize that suited towards specifically towards guys, who had cancer. Uh, because it's a really specific experience. So those three P's really, for me, has made a big difference in my life. Those people's and passions and projects, and really finding what is it's been that's made a huge difference for me. It's given me a sense of calm. It's given me a sense of greater control in my life. Because one of the things that uncertainty does, right, you kind of feel like you're not in charge anymore, like things is just kind of happening to you. And I really feel that, taking back control is so crucial. And doing things that are within your control, that's what changes things around. Because this is the first thing I wanted to really share with you today in terms of tackling uncertainty was this kind of idea, the mindset that at least I have and I had is that in times of uncertainty, I really feel that you lose confidence a lot. Would you say that's true? You lose kind of confidence, you start doubting yourself, you start questioning what you're doing, and you start asking yourself, like, am I good enough? Are things even gonna work out? And what if this idea that I had or these plans I had, what if it's all gonna go wrong? It's not gonna the way that I expected. And I think that, it's a natural thing that happens to all of us. I mean, that's what I think. And I feel that the only way to turn it around is to start asking a different type of questions, which I know can be difficult as well. But one thing that I've really turned it around for me was to ask, what if I was coming up to an important situation in my life or kind of a big moment, would be to ask, well, what if things turn out better than I could ever imagine? And you know what? I really believe that when you approach situations in your life and you ask yourself, what if things do turn out better than I could ever imagine? You know what the reality is? Things are not going to turn out perfectly. We know that, right? But I promise you this, that if you come in with that sort of approach, more good things will come for you. Because you're just going to come at it with a different level of energy. You're just going to approach it with a perspective of, I can work things out. I can work around it. And I know that's not easy. I had to train myself and kind of just hit myself over the head with it and kind of try to find the good things and try to find different ways. Because I could be, I could have been approaching today and thinking, I'm scared. I don't know what these good people will think. You know, and thanks so much, Heidi. I really appreciate your comments. Love it. Thank you. And thank you for being here. And because to me it was, I don't know, maybe you're gonna think it's silly or it's ridiculous, or maybe you're gonna think I'm boring, right? Well, maybe boring is not my biggest problem. Maybe you're gonna think, who is this guy to talk about, his perspective on life, right? But I chose a different way. I thought, what if people will get something out of it? What if someone will enjoy it? What if someone will kind of cheer them up a little bit? I chose to look at it, and I try to choose it to look at most situations in life in a way that I'm trying to find something that will keep me going, that will keep me excited, that will keep me kind of moving on. So that's one thing I want for you is to think that you gotta trust yourself. Trust yourself that you're good enough to live through whatever it is you've got in front of you or the challenges that you might be living right now. Trust yourself. You are good enough to do this. You've already been through a lot. I don't know you personally, and I don't know your challenges and your struggles, but I'm sure you've been through things. I'm sure the reality is you've been through things in your life where you've had to suffer. And maybe you're in that place right now. And if you are, I wish you all the best. But that's how life is sometimes, unfortunately. And you've learned a lot in your experience. So trust yourself that you can get through this. Now, for the second thing that I wanted to share with you is that sometimes I think with uncertainty, we kind of lose our sense of kind of presence in the world. We get distracted. we get like kind of stuck in this place of worry where you constantly, you could be looking at the numbers the whole time, and you could be looking. It's so depressing, isn't it? Like you look at. I mean, I know for ages, like my heart was just constantly, racing when I would look at them. Go, oh my goodness, the numbers are jumping up. The numbers go here. Look at what's happening in this part of the world. Look what's going on there. In times of like uncertainty and stress, it gets to you, right? And you live in a place where you're all over the place. And this is when it's hugely important to find a way to live in the moment. And I think there's a lot of conversations around mindfulness these days. That's great. I think that's fantastic. And meditation. Some of the things that for me, I personally are hard to do because I kind of I just get distracted. But I think what I believe is one way that I found that helps me in terms of coming back to this feeling of just kind of being alive and being present in this moment. It's kind of this clarifying question that I ask myself. And the first time I asked this question was I was actually, waiting for my treatment results. And I was just like, again, I was stressed. I was worried. I didn't know what to do with myself. I had so many million things going on. And I asked myself, what if this was my last day alive? What would I do right now? And I seriously thought about it. Because back then it was real, right? And I thought, well, what would I do? Like, would I worry about all this sort of stuff? Or would I just do something that is just fun or just I would love doing? And I think I kind of just dropped everything and I had like I went and I just had this crazy pillow fight with my kid, and it was just fun. Like I just did stuff and I wasn't thinking about it, and bang, I was just in the moment. I was alive. I felt real again. I felt like myself again. And that's what I started to do from then on. As whenever I feel like kind of confused or all over, and I kind of ask myself, what if this was, what if this was for some reason my last day on this planet? What would I do right now? And it could be something mundane. Like I could be driving, in a car and being stuck in traffic. I don't know. I actually forgot what that's like. I'm sure we'll remember real soon. But even if I'm stuck in traffic, even if I'm stuck in traffic and whatever's happening, and would I worry? If this was my last day, would I worry about the craziness and the stress that's going on around me? It's it's I could just not worry about it. And I could just don't put on my favorite music and I could sing out loud. And I could put on, I'll throw on David Bowie and I'll be like, we can be heroes. This was a horrible rendition of David Bowie. But there you have it. And it brings me back. This clarifying question helps me to reconnect with what's important to me right now. And thank you for asking, Heidi. Has you're saying has that always been a positive person, or has this experience changed me? I gotta say, experience has changed me in a real powerful way. The cancer experience has really transformed my life. But in a way, because some people say, well, I won't let cancer define me. But I gotta say, how can it not? It's such a huge change in your life. And I think the things that happened to us, traumatic events, and this wasn't, the first difficult thing in my life, a whole bunch of different things, and that's maybe another, conversation for another time. But I had a whole bunch of different things in my life, but I think we all have. I know you have in your own way struggle, but I think it's to a certain extent, in the way we choose how we react to things. And in some way, we can choose to try to go on despite the craziness, despite the suffering, and try to be at our best. I think that's all that we can do sometimes is in order to survive, we gotta just show up and be present. That's not some chest beating thing where you're gonna just dominate and crush it. Sometimes it's just about making it through and doing it your best. And sometimes that means, for me, that means writing a chapter of a new book in a day. And sometimes it just means we're just going to have a shower one day and look at that as an accomplishment, you know? And I think that that's all different for depending on where we are in life or in that particular moment. So, that's the second thing I wanted to really tell you about was to just bringing yourself back to where you can kind of just live in the moment and really be in a place where, you know, you're alive. No matter what happens, you're just in this moment, you're not distracted. And I hope that clarifying question can help you in some way. Now, the third thing that I wanted to also share with you is to envision the future. And I know that I know how patronizing it might sound actually, because it's so hard to imagine the future, right? Especially when you're going through a crazy time. And I don't know exactly your situation right now, but we're all living in lockdown, right? And kind of the future, or the restrictions are starting to come off, right? But who knows what might happen? Still the pandemic, it's still the economy is all over the place. We don't know what's going to happen. And it's all like the world's probably isn't in a great place right now. But you know what? I think right now there's never been a more important time to really imagine the future for yourself. What's it going to do like? What's it going to be? Because to me, it all comes back to, again, finding the vision of the future where that you can connect to. Is to me is always, again, with another question, is comes back to, if I can lose track of that, is who do I want to help and why? I think it's so crucial to know exactly who you want to help and why you want to help them. And the who it could be, the person who's already a part of your life. It could be your spouse. It could be your child. It could be your friend. It could be your neighbor. Or it could be someone that you don't know. It could be someone that maybe is part of your local community. Or it could be someone that maybe has lived through a difficult time and you kind of can relate to them in some way. But this is the reason why we live in communities, right? This is the reason why we have this civilization. This is the reason why we fall in love. This is the reason why we make friends, right? This is the reason why we hang out with other people, is we want to feel connected. And I think the future, if you're having a vision for yourself and vision for the future, is about other people. And the reason why I think is crucial is understanding what that means for you. And I think sometimes it's important to bring that out because sometimes you kind of get caught up in things, and sometimes it's important to really remind yourself, who that person is and why you really care about them and being a part of their life, and why it's important for you to support them, and the difference that it could make for them. Or in case of or it could be also someone that you really don't know, that you could kind of identify with the struggle or just feel that you can make a difference in some small way, and make a contribution in your own way, in whatever way that is for you. That could be volunteering, it could be creating, some kind of a personal project, that it could be doing something in your local community. I don't know what that is for you, but I think it's crucial to find something and find a personal cause where you feel like you want to make a difference, where you feel that you wanna kind of make a stand for yourself and make a change for somebody else's life in whatever way that is. Like, I'm not saying it's got to be some huge and epic and it's got to be some grand thing with like a million steps, but it can be something that's kind of that's real, that's small, that you can do in your own way. For me, again, like I'm writing a new book right now, this year in lockdown, which has been uh funny enough, it's about uncertainty. Well, because it's kind of a big deal now. But for me, that making the difference, a few years ago was really writing this book. Why? Because I knew that this was a personal struggle that I went through, and I know that as special as unique as I am, there's a lot of there's so many of us who are going through similar types of struggles, and that's why I really wrote this book. That really there's like four parts in the book, and that's just all of these questions. One is why me? Is working through like why did it happen? I just put in the kind of diagnosis and those all those worries behind you, at least in some way, so you can move on. The second part of it is really what now? It's kind of how do you deal with treatment and how do you work through what sort of questions you can ask your specialist, like what sort of things you need to watch out for or prepare in terms of treatment. The third thing is, who's going to be there for me through cancer, right? Because again, and I think that's also true regardless of cancer or not, that there are people in our lives when we go through difficult times that they want to help you. They want to be there for you, but they don't really know how. I don't know if you've ever experienced that. Um, but they want to help you, and sometimes we kind of need to guide them because they don't want to say the wrong thing, they don't want to do the wrong thing. So it's kind of important to really guide them and help them on. And the fourth thing is, well, how do I deal with waiting and uncertainty? Which is some of the things we're really talking about right now, right? Because, like I said, it's never been a time where we've had more uncertainty and worry in our life. And, and one thing that I guess I'd love to hear anything from you around how, what helps you in this sort of time. We've been living in this it feels like eternity, but it's probably been what less than a year. I'd love to hear what have been some of the ways that some of the things that helped you to deal with worry, with uncertainty, with not knowing what's going on. If you feel if there's something that's helped you, just put that in a comment below, right? Just I think it's below this video. I think that's how it is. Let me know. Give me a shout. Um, so yeah, exactly, Heidi. It's so important to guide people to talk about it in a meaningful way, because to be honest, I haven't done a great job with myself when I was going through that experience, and now by speaking through, with now really, I guess, thousands of people through support groups and talks and all sorts of events, I kind of feel like we all experience the same challenges. That's both as kind of cancer patients, but also as cancer caregivers. People who, if you by caregiver, I really mean just someone who you care about. It's whether that's, you know, um, maybe your sister or a brother or a friend or a partner of someone who's had cancer, who's got cancer. It's you're going through the same challenges, and sometimes you're just really struggling yourself in a big way, and often I would say more so than the person with cancer. I really believe it was a lot harder for my wife. It was harder for my mom, because at least I was in it. I was kind of dealing with it as bad as I can, but they had to worry about me and also try to go on with their life. So I think that's tough as well. So I think that's hugely important thing. And and I guess for me, I realized after my experience with cancer, but also in this time that we live in right now, I realized that any day, any day, it can be taken away. And I don't mean it as a morbid kind of way. I just mean in a very real, kind of tangible way that any day it could be taken away. We have no control. We have no control over many things that are happening. And that's okay to a certain extent, because the way that I look at it is, why worry about all those things that can go wrong when there is so much that you can make right? I really feel that that's a choice I think that we sometimes make. Um, it's difficult. Sometimes it's a difficult way to look at things, but it's also free. It's also incredibly liberating to look at things from perspective of I'll do what I can do. I will do my best to deal with the situation the best that I can. And I think it requires a lot of effort, but I think we can all, at least I know I'm striving my best to live that, and I know it has helping me. So listen, I hope it's been interesting to you in some way. I'd love to hear any of your questions or just thoughts down below. Just um, ask me anything. I'm here for you, and even if you just want to share something about yourself and about the way this has experience of the pandemic has changed you, or has changed the way that you live. Like Heidi, you saying, well, was there anything that people said that made you feel angry or uncomfortable, or do you think it's more individual? Does each person deal with comments differently? Well, I gotta say, Heidi, it's. I think there are a couple of things that really um, that 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 I personally struggled with in terms of um, in terms of conversations, in terms of things that you kind of really don't want to say to someone who's had cancer. And I'll just kind of I'll go through. In fact, it's kind of the five reasons, five things that you really don't want to say to someone who has had cancer. And the first thing, Heidi, is one of the things that I've heard, and I know that is also consistent across many people, is really when someone finds out that you have cancer and they say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And in a weird way, I know that they mean well, but sometimes it feels like it's kind of coming from a place of pity as well. And I think people just don't want to feel that, and sometimes it's kind of feels that as people say like, "Oh, I'm sorry because I know that someone in my life died from cancer." And I feel like it's always or almost always comes from a place of just wanting to connect and wanting to share in with your experience. But you know what? In that time, you want to live. And when someone says, "I'm so sorry because I know someone who's died from cancer," it's kind of again yet another reminder that you could die. So I think that's not always helpful. The second thing that isn't really helpful is that people have said to me, I know to other people as well, is, "But you don't look sick." Because sometimes with all the medication that we have these days, we're really privileged to have all the medication that can help us with treatment and help us to get through it and kind of not look like you're about to die. So again, you could be looking okay. That really doesn't mean that you're in a good place at all. So you know that. So yeah, that's really the second thing is you don't look sick. And the third thing is that I know also hasn't been helpful. Um, is when people said, "Look, I just know that everything is going to turn out okay." I know because it comes from a place of hope and wishing for the best, but I think that no one really knows how things might turn out. So um, we all wish for the best, but again, that's probably something that no one knows how things will turn out. Even the professionals, right? Because uh, cancer is such a crazy thing, and it could go any kind of ways, and all the percentages ultimately go out of the window. The first thing that I want to kind of share with that quickly is let me know how I can help. I know there was a lot of people in my life that have said, "Look, let me know how I can help." But I think that's it. Again, it comes from a place of wanting to help. It's kind of difficult, right? Because I don't want to like, or the person with cancer, they don't want to put you out or inconvenience you, and ask you to do something you might not want to do. And also, it kind of puts a lot of kind of pressure for me to come up with something that won't be like onerous. So I think the best way to really is to say, well, what can I help you with today? What can I do for you right now? I think that's really that kind of comes from a place of, it doesn't leave a lot of room. You can just kind of blurt it out, and the person, and you can just come up and say, and you can say, well, if someone says to me, well, how can I help you right now? If I was in a place of where I needed help, I could say, well, God, like maybe you could just drive me to the hospital, or, well, do you mind like doing the groceries for me, right? It's an immediate kind of thing. So I think if this is, I would say, could be really helpful. Finally, the last thing I want to say is with the fifth thing I really don't want to say to someone with cancer, or rather do, is not do anything at all. I have to be honest, I had some people in my life who, like my friends and even family, who are not really no longer a part of my life anymore because they, frankly speaking, they kind of disappeared. They didn't know what to say or what to do, so they chose to do nothing at all. And that's hard to take because, that's kind of when you need people the most, is when you're going through a difficult time. So I think that the most crucial thing is to just show up and be present, and just not try to search for the right thing to say, but just kind of be there, be present, and ideally ask, what can I help you with now? So I hope that's helpful in some way. I hope that kind of really um, gives a good idea of what works and what doesn't when you have cancer, or in fact something else, or in fact when there is some kind of other challenge or difficulty, whether it's mental health, whether it's physical health, whether that's just a difficult situation in life, whatever that may be. If you have anything else that you want to shout out or um, let me know. Let me know in the comments. Is there any questions that you have? Any thoughts you want to share? Um, well, thank you, thank you so much. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you guys for having me. I really loved being here with you tonight. It's a shame I couldn't be there with you in person. Hopefully, one day we can make that happen. In the meantime, thank you for having me, guys. Thank you for being here and for really spending the time to be here today. I really wish you all the best. I hope you've got your plans lined up with the lockdown lifting, and I hope that and I hope that all of us can have a fantastic summer with Christmas and just being back to life and enjoying things that we always can look forward to. And look, I'll say this again, you know, any day, my friend, it can be taken away. So really, why worry about all those things that could go wrong when there is so much to make right? Thank you for being here. I'll see you soon. Ciao.